Welcome to Washington East to West Sports. This is episode 34. I am Matt Beatty, joined alongside, as usual, by Sean Beatty and Kevin Ardall. If you want to get involved in the show, go ahead and tweet us. I am at Beatty_Matt. Sean is at Sean_Beatty. Kev is at Kev Believes. The first thing believes being a 3. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave us a comment on the video. Tell us what you think of the show. Tell us what you think of the topics we talk about on the show. Follow our page on the Eli Network. Gentlemen, let's start in college football. That's right, college football. So for those of you that may not be aware, there is some college football going on, but I think the two co-hosts of mine are very aware that Eastern Washington is in the playoffs. They will be playing North Dakota State in the first round of the 2021 FCS Football Championship. Begins this Saturday. Are you guys a little nervous taking on North Dakota State? And what do you guys know how good Eastern is this year? Do you like their chances? Is it just going to be South Dakota State once again? Sean, what do you think? I saw you post this tweet.
It's kind of hard to tell college football this year because, again, the whole starting thing. So I think they're good. I think they're a little overmatched, but like Eastern always has a shot in these things. So, but anytime there's a Dakota in this thing, whatever East, Northwest, South Dakota, whatever it is, they're always really good. So it does make me a little nervous.
Kevin, do you think Eastern is primed for a run in the playoffs this year?
It's always a crap show, to be honest, especially in that division. I think they're better than what they are last year. I think, especially defensively. But it's with time off and COVID and all that stuff, it's really hard to say if they're going to be kind of in the full gear mode, like full 100% of what they usually are. So, I mean, I'm going to be rooting for them, that's for sure. But also North Dakota State, or are they playing North Dakota or South Dakota? I forgot.
North Dakota State. North Dakota
State is, if I remember correctly, they're very good. So, yeah, it will be tough to see, but hopefully they'll pull it
out. Yeah, it's very weird to see football in the spring. I'm also curious how that affects their draft status, because I imagine if you're playing, you're probably not eligible for the draft. So I wonder if that was just kind of like a decision that some athletes had to make, or whether or not they all are eligible even though they're still playing. So obviously very weird times during the pandemic. So hopefully Eastern will make a nice solid run in the postseason this season. But South Dakota State, always the top dog. Those Jackrabbits always seem to have a really solid team. So we'll wish the best of luck to Eastern. We'll also mention that the Sounders won 4-0 in their opener last Friday against the Minnesota FC. So good on the Sounders for opening their season with a big win. But gentlemen, let's get into some Seattle Mariners baseball. So let's just look back at the week that was. So the Mariners are currently playing at the moment while recording. Is it 4-2 Dodgers still? I know one of you has it on.
4-2 Mariners.
4-2 Mariners. Sorry, 4-2 Mariners. Sorry. Let's go back over the week that was. So they had a doubleheader on Tuesday. They won 4-3 in the first one, lost 7-6 in the second one. Then they had another postponement rainout. Then they played another 2 7-inning doubleheaders. They won 4-2 and 2-1 against the Orioles. That was on Thursday. Then they flew back to Seattle and hosted Houston for a 3-game series. They won 6-5 on Friday, lost 1-0 to Zach Greinke on Saturday, and then wrapped up the series by earning the series win with the 7-2 win over the Astros, and are currently playing the Dodgers for a quick 2-game series before they hit the road once again for 4 against Boston and 4 against Houston. So, gentlemen, I'm going to ask you, I mean, the Mariners, since we last recorded, were 5-2. What have been your thoughts on how the Mariners have performed this last week? Kevin, I'm going to start with you.
Pretty much, yeah, they've kind of exceeded expectations. I couldn't really put much, because Baltimore is just kind of, I don't know what to really make of Baltimore at this moment. The Houston one was impressive. The Houston win, the series win. They took 2 out of 3 there. It was 2 out of 3, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had some impressive stuff there, especially since Houston's kind of been their kryptonite over the last God knows how long. And tonight, right now, against the Dodgers, who are a very, 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 very good team, as we all know, because they kind of won it all last year. They're kind of holding against their own. The hitting has been surprising. J.P. Crawford, to pretty much name the names, who's been on the hitting streak, which I don't know if he's gotten one tonight, but he stepped it up like we kind of been mentioning on the spot. That was a nice thing to see. Trammell's kind of been hit and miss. He needs to be a little bit more consistent at the bat, but tonight he had a home run and also an RBI as well. So hopefully that kind of continues forward, so to speak, or else Mr. Kelnick's going to be Kelnick's going to be knocking on the door anywho. It doesn't matter, but what his position will be once Kelnick gets here is going to be very much based off of what he does over the next month. The story pretty much of this team right now is the bullpen. The bullpen is very, very good, which we did not expect. Going back and looking at our past podcasts, we were just kind of like, bullpen kind of like spring training, they didn't really do well. Then they're just kind of like, we got it together. They did it very well. Will it hold? Probably not. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be complete and everybody's giving up 10 runs apiece, but I hope it does. That'd be sweet. But bullpens are so finicky every year. It doesn't mean like if we have it this year, doesn't mean we're gonna have it next year type of deal. I like to see a little bit more consistency out of starting pitching. Kikuchi has been mainly the most consistent one so far. But everybody else kind of here and there, so to speak. But overall, I've liked what I've seen. And we're in first place, I think, still. So.
Sean, what have been your thoughts on the Mariners this last week? We're having some technical difficulties with Sean here.
I don't know if you guys can hear.
Kind of.
We could kind of hear you. Sean?
Well, in the meantime, until we get Sean back, I can elaborate a little bit more. Yeah, Vest and the rest of the boys in that bullpen have been very good. They're actually top 10 in MLB right now in bullpens. In terms of, it's WROC, I believe is the, but they're just super good right now. Starting pitching, Kikuchi, solid. Marco's kind of got it together a little bit. You had a little bit more consistent better outing last time. He still needs to kind of work on his walks, which was weird because that was his prime thing last year, was the lack of walks that the lack of walks that he gave. He only had like I think 8 on the whole season or something like that. It was nutty. Like he was like top 3. Flexen has been kind of what you thought. I think he's going to get better. Especially it takes time for guys that come over from like Korea and Japan to kind of get adjusted to. Now, I would say Flexen's more able to adjust to that better than what like Kikuchi was last year, just because he came from America, so he knows that type of system. But I think it will kind of get better. I'm glad to see Kikuchi do what he's doing. He only technically he had like I think 4 earned runs. I don't know but one of them was not on him. It was like a terrible throw, by what's his base? You normally play second base.
Dylan Moore?
Dylan Moore. Yeah, they had Dylan Moore in the right field because they wanted Haniger at DH, and they were giving somebody the day off. I think Evan White had the day off or something. And it was just a horrible throw. Like he kind of stepped toward the plate, like he's going to make a throw toward the plate, but he's like last second he's like, I'm going to throw it to third, type of deal. So, and on that note, I will throw it over to Sean.
My computer took a dump. Sorry, guys.
Oh, good.
But I will say, I think right now the bullpen is kind of playing over their head a little bit. They aren't really that. I'm sorry if I'm repeating anything Kevin said over the last couple of minutes. Thanks for covering. But
Yeah, no problem.
I really enjoy watching this team play as they are. Because bullpens are fickle year in and year out. So, I mean, maybe this could be the bullpen. I don't know. I doubt it. But if this is the bullpen, then getting a couple bats in this lineup, like Kyle Lewis, who's rumored to be back tomorrow, and a Kelnick, getting some guys that can hit a little bit in this lineup can really change things around. The surprising thing and the thing that I think will change is the starting pitchers. I think they'll kind of come back down to where they're supposed to be, and that'll only improve things because Sheffield and Marco are struggling a little bit. They'll both get better. Kikuchi's been pretty good so far, and Flexen will be a little better too. So I think once all these guys really level out and we get a couple more bats in here, maybe this team could kind of start to turn a little bit heads. Because as we've been seeing, and I've been saying for a while now, Mitch Haniger is a beast, and he is their best player. So put some respect on his name. And then Ty Francis, those two guys in the top keep doing something. We're winning games with Kyle Seager struggling right now. So that dude, always starts off very slow. Once he gets hot, once it starts to get warmer, I mean, the AL West is really trying hard to lose a lot of games that they should be winning. So it's helping. And the Astros all getting COVID, kind of nice. Not like they get COVID is nice, but like that they're struggling is kind of nice. So I don't feel bad for them.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat what you guys said. Pitching has been great. What has been most impressive to me is the bats, honestly. I mean, I feel like the first, week, they were just kind of a little bit slow get going, but now we're starting to see the emergence of, JP Crawford, especially. I mean, he was struggling there for the first few games. He's kind of found his bat. Kyle Seager hasn't been great, but he's been getting more power shots, and he's been getting up there in RBI, second in the team in RBI. So it's great to see. I think Taylor Trammell's playing a lot better at the plate. He's getting the bat going a little bit. He's got his third home run tonight. And Luis Torrens is also having a little bit of a nice season. I think offensively, he's the better option at this point as opposed to Tom Murphy. So I think the bats getting going is really nice to see. And, the Mariners, they're not going to be like, offensive juggernauts, but they are winning these games that are close, low scoring. And it's, obviously a combination of pitching and offense because, you've got these 4-3, 7-6, 4-2, 2-1, 6-5. They're not blowing the doors off these teams. They're just, scoring enough runs and just letting their pitching hold them off towards the end. So it's really nice to see the bats kind of come alive. Hopefully they keep it consistent and keep it going. And, once those bigger bats like, Kelnick and Kyle Lewis come in, hopefully this lineup will have quite a bit of power up and down it. And, 1 through 9, you're not going to be able to want to face any of them. I even need to throw a shout out to Jose Marmoleos. I think he's been playing a lot better recently at the plate. Yeah, he's hit a home run tonight. So, he's been playing a little bit everywhere. So,
of course, because I just trashed him the other day, and so of course he's playing a lot better.
Well, I mean, maybe that's the key. Maybe you just need to trash them all, and then they'll be like, "Oh, Sean said something."
All the Mariners suck. They're all trash. Do the thing.
There we go. Okay. So, gentlemen, I wanted to play a quick Mariners game here. I'm sure you can see it on the sheet. It's called Not, Somewhat, or Very Surprised. So I'm going to tell you what the thing is, and then you're going to tell me if you're not surprised by it, somewhat surprised by it, or very surprised by it. So let's start off with probably the craziest thing of them all. The Mariners are currently in first place with 10 wins, and they are one of only 5 teams with 10 wins. That would be the Red Sox, which also a surprise to be up top there. The
Red
Dodgers. What?
The Red Sox have 11 now.
Oh, well, I meant at least 10 wins. Yeah. So LA Dodgers, San Francisco Giants, and San Diego Padres. So NL West, quite strong there at the top. But I want to ask you guys, how surprised are you that the Mariners are in the first place, even though it's early? Not, somewhat, or very. Sean, what do you think?
Very. I didn't think they'd be anywhere close to this. I think, again, we talked about they're a little lucky to even be here, but yeah, I'm surprised.
Kevin?
Very surprised. Half the lineup isn't hitting above like 230, even though average is not everything, but like it's kind of like a sort of medium ground that you can base things on. So it's like a lot of this power is just kind of coming from Ty France and Mitch Haniger being sexy beasts. And then the pitching was kind of like the opposite of what we thought it would be. Like we thought like last year we would have more consistent like starting versus, and then the bullpen is kind of the weird part, but it's been opposite. So yeah, very surprised. We played some very good teams, the Twins and Astros, and now the Dodgers. And San Francisco, who's also, got 10 plus wins. So it's actually very surprising, yes, just that they are doing that.
I would say somewhat surprised. In recent years, we have seen the Mariners jump out to a hot start and be in first place. So it's somewhat surprising because I didn't expect this team to be doing this. But we have seen this in the past, and then they have kind of gone downhill or come back down to earth, whatever you want to call it, at some point, maybe in like May or something. So
they imploded. Huh? They imploded 2 years ago.
Yeah. So it's like, they've been here before. So it's not completely surprising, but it is surprising that this team is better than, Dodgers, Angels, A's, like at this point in the season. So it is pretty nice to see at this point. So I am somewhat surprised about this. Looking at their run differential, the Mariners currently, game hasn't ended yet against the Dodgers, but have a -3 run differential, and they are in first place. The rest of the division, Angels have a +3 differential, Athletics are -11, Astros are +6, and the Rangers are -12. So are you not somewhat or very surprised that they are in first place with a negative run differential? Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, it's because, baseball is very weird. Like, because a lot of times, it just depends on what you're playing. Like, you could have like an 8-6 win, or you could have like what Astros did to us, a 1-0 win, type of deal. Yeah, usually the stats kind of show the opposite, but with how the rest of the AL West is playing and how the other teams, actually, yeah, I'm kind of shocked because, like I said, we're playing against teams that have kind of a winning record, other than like Astros technically at the moment, but they usually do. So, yes, I would say I am surprised.
The team they are currently playing has a +38 run differential, so I'm going to say I'm somewhat surprised by this. You just typically expect a team with a winning record to maybe not have like a super high plus run differential, but you expect it to be more than, you expect it to be not negative. So it's somewhat surprising at this point, but, Kevin mentioned, runs can come in one game and then not be there the next game. And that's, kind of how run differential works, but it's also something that can generally tell you how a team is doing if you can't see their record. So to see them with a -3 run differential, it is somewhat shocking, but at the same time, I think we kind of expected the pitching to not be as great and to have other teams be scoring more runs, and maybe our bat's not keeping up. So I am somewhat surprised by it. John, what do you think?
I am somewhat. Again, it's only -3. It's not like they're like the Rangers at -12 or anything like that. If they were there, I'd be very surprised. But somewhat -3 in the first place. I would say probably closer to second. I would expect at the best. But like you said, the rest of the division really doesn't have a great. Oakland started off so bad and got hot, but they were so in the hole to begin with that, like, yeah, I think that they're kind of fortunate. Like you said, the Dodgers are +1 million already because they're very good at baseball. But yeah, I'm just somewhat surprised.
All right. Currently, before the end of this game, Mitch Haniger leads the team with 22 hits, and Ty France is second with 18 hits. So I'll put these two in a separate category. Mitch leading the team, and then Ty France in second place. I'll go ahead and start on this one. I'm not surprised at all that Mitch Haniger is leading the team in hits. He is the leadoff hitter. His job is to get on base, and he's a great hitter. So he is just kind of showing that from the leadoff spot. He gets the most opportunities with being first in the lineup. But I am very surprised that Ty France is second on the team in hits. Not that he's not a great hitter. I just thought someone else would have that position, maybe Kyle Seager, JP Crawford, someone, and now they're 3 and 4. So they're not far off, but I am very surprised that Ty France is playing as well as he has. I know he showed a lot in spring training, but to have him come on as he has, like I'm very surprised and pleasantly surprised at that. Sean, what do you think?
What's the answer below none or not at all? I expected these two to lead the team in hits, and they are doing that. Yeah, probably in this order as well. Mitch Haniger, like I've been saying, like everyone talked about all these other guys that they have. Mitch Haniger is literally one of the best 15 outfielders in baseball if he's healthy. He's so good, everyone forgot about it when he's healthy, and he's really good. Ty France, again, my thought is Kyle Lewis was so up and down last year, and Kyle Seager is such a slow starter that I wouldn't say maybe at the end of the year I'd be more surprised if you told me this, but in the beginning of the year, I could easily see Ty France being the number 2, and I would have thought I think in our thing I said he was going to be there in the hits, like either top or somewhere up there. So I'm not surprised at all these two are leading the team.
Kevin?
No. Only way I really would be surprised is if like Kyle Lewis was healthy the whole time, and like we had Kelnick up here,
If he was first half Kyle Lewis, not second half Kyle Lewis.
Yeah, that's true. But no, yeah, Ty France kind of showed in spring training that he is the real deal. I know spring training is not fully the real thing, but like he was just murdering things, and that's just being polite in spring training. And as Sean already mentioned, Haniger is just a beast when he's healthy. So no, not really surprised.
So the next one is RBIs, and Mitch Haniger is also leading in that category at 14 right now. He is the leadoff hitter. So Sean, not somewhat or very surprised.
I am somewhat surprised because I noticed that you changed it because you in the notes you had it was Seager.
I know. I looked at I know. Data, and I was like, oh.
I was so happy to correct you on that one, but you changed it before we started this. I'm a little surprised, like you said, he's a leadoff hitter. I would have thought, even despite Kyle Seager's maybe hitting troubles, you run into a home run every once in a while, and it'll turn into a 3-run home run versus a solo for Mitch Haniger. So I thought, usually the guys in the middle of the lineup are a little bit lower, going to have more RBIs than the leadoff guy. So I'm a little surprised, or I'm pretty surprised, but it shouldn't continue. Even no matter how well Haniger hits at 1, someone lower will probably overtake him shortly.
Kevin?
I'm going to say a little bit yes, even with him at leadoff, because there's going to be times where you're going to have like 8, 9, 1. And I thought the bottom half of this team would not be kind of doing what they are. I mean, JP Crawford has gotten better, but I thought like people like Dylan Moore, Crawford would have a little, and what's his name? Not Torrens, but Murphy would have a little bit better start, to where they could, when they're kind of going through the bottom to the top, he could, knock a few in. There'd be a couple guys on base type of deal. Kyle Seager usually runs that, but he, at the same time too, not surprised. Like as we've known, we've had Seager for almost 10 years, pretty much. To where like he has very weird starts. Either he's hot and then he gets cold, or he's cold and gets hot. He just unfortunately isn't consistent the whole season through, which kind of sucks. But eventually, as we know with Kyle Seager, he'll get it together and then start going crazy. He always has like a crazy run where he just hits like 11 home runs in like a 15-day span, damn near. I wouldn't say that crazy, but he goes ham on for a little bit. So yeah, I'll say a little bit.
Yeah, I'll say somewhat surprised, and it's only because he's the leadoff hitter. I think if he were further down the lineup, this would not be surprising at all. But you talked about the bottom of the lineup. JP Crawford has come on strong, so he's getting on base, and Mitch Haniger steps up and knocks him in. Same with Marmaleos or Moore or Torrens, whoever's at the bottom of the lineups gets on base, and then Mitch just comes up and knocks him in. So
they just don't get on base.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
so keep it up, Mitch. If I'm a betting man, I think Seager will pass you and maybe a couple others. But right now it's nice to see you just knocking those guys at the bottom of the lineup and keep getting us those wins. So Now we're going to move to pitching. Kikuchi leads the team in Ks with 19. The next closest is Chris Flexen with 14. Not very or somewhat surprised. Kevin?
I'm going to go somewhat surprised. Because as Sean mentioned in previous podcasts, like he was just very unlucky last year. He had like that fastball that he's got, he can get he goes 97, 98 usually. He has a good arsenal behind him. It looks like he's kind of gotten it together. He's been in the league for enough time to be adjusted to the inning count and the pitch count. I kind of would expect Marco to be up there a little. Well, actually, technically, I would say Paxton would be at this point before the season. I would say Paxton would have been, but no one would. Well, I mean, we could have kind of foreseen him being hurt because he does get hurt often, sadly. And I wasn't because Marco's not really much of a strikeout guy. He normally is between like 4 to 7 on a usual 6-inning outing. He's not really. I mean, there are some days where he'll throw 9 Ks every now and then, where he's got his stuff and he's on. That's usually his upside is like a 9K game in like 7 innings. But yeah, it's he's got the materials to do it, man. He's got the arsenal behind him. He's got that sexy fastball, and I love his delivery. It's kind of a unique style. It like his weird like leg stall thingy-mabobber that he kind of does when he pitches. I know it's not fully completely weird, but you know what I'm talking about. So I'll go kind of.
I'll say somewhat surprised as well. I was, if you didn't mention him, I would have definitely mentioned him, Kevin. I thought Paxton, if healthy, would be leading this category. I could have seen, Flexen possibly, or Justice even possibly. Marco, you guys mentioned isn't much of a strikeout guy, so that would have been surprising. But Kikuchi has been just absolutely solid in his starts this season. So it's really nice to see him have the leading Ks on the team. And yeah, it is somewhat surprising to me, but it is fun to see. Sean?
The same pretty much. I think we should have probably seen this a little bit. I mean, kind of coming, because again, most of the guys we have other than Paxton really aren't strikeout guys. And Kikuchi with his control, and he bumped it up to 97 this year. He's been sitting at 93 most years, and he went to Driveline and learned to get a couple more miles an hour and was looking super good in the spring. We should have probably seen this coming more, but we've been burned kind of in the past with Kikuchi. So I think actually seeing it let us, look back and be like, oh, we should have seen it more. So I'll say somewhat, but it's nice to see.
All right, we'll get one last one in here before we'll move on, and this is just a general MLB one. The New York Yankees are 5-10 and in last place in the AL East. They are 2-8 in their last 10 and have lost 5 in a row. So not somewhat or very surprised. I will go ahead and start. As someone who picked the Yankees to be in the World Series this year, I am very surprised by this. I mean, they have all the pitching they could possibly need. They have all the bats they could possibly need. It is early, so I don't expect this to keep up. But at this point in the season, it's a you don't want to hit the panic button. Obviously, it's the middle of April, but it's not great when you're 2-8 in your last 10 and have lost 5 in a row. Now, granted, the AL East is right at the moment looking maybe a little bit more strong than we thought, but it is very surprising to see the Yankees at the bottom with the amount of talent they have. Sean, what do you think?
I think it's interesting that you say that they have enough pitching. I think that they don't have enough pitching. Two of their starters are guys that are coming off season-ending injuries. So if they were good and healthy, then yeah, they would have enough. But right now they're not good and healthy. But Garrett Cole's fantastic. Yeah, I think it is still very surprising that they're not better. I think it's more on the offense. Their offense just isn't doing a whole lot of anything. As someone who heavily invested in fantasy in that offense, it kind of sucks, but I can say I'm not super sad that the Yankees are struggling, and I'll never wish them to do well. So I'll say it's surprising, though. It is surprising that they're that bad right now.
Kevin?
I'm going to kind of two-part this real quick. If I were to say before the season, yes. If I were to say like kind of now, well, yes and no. Just because that division, we knew what Tampa Bay had. The surprising part is like Boston and somewhat Baltimore. Boston especially particularly. That kind of just what surprised me more, but like that division is solid. They have a lot of young prospects in that division, Toronto especially, and technically I guess now, Red Sox. But as Sean mentioned, the pitching other than Garrett Cole, you have Severino, who's supposed to be back this year, but then what else other than your closer, Chapman, who sometimes has night where he doesn't know where the heck he can't even hit the broadside of a barn. He was having that like a week ago on a Wednesday night.
Chapman just came back from suspension too, so he's pitched like 2 games. So
yeah. So it's still very early, yes. I would say I'm somewhat surprised just because I know that the division is always someone always kind of comes out. Like last year, we knew Tampa Bay was good, but we didn't expect Tampa Bay to be as good as what they were. A lot of people weren't, at least. I mean, there's probably some people that could have probably guessed that they were going to be pretty darn good, but and this year nobody really, other than like diehard Boston fans, so they're always going to say they're in it every year, would say that they'd be at where they are right now. Because my brother is a Boston fan, and I was teasing them after the first 3 games. I was just like, well, it looks like your team's kind of sucking on that deal. And then, of course, I had to jinx fate, and now they're. I hate it too because they have 2 of the worst fan bases in MLB. So it's like, ugh. But Baltimore's kind of been they're only 2 games under 500. Especially since other than like Matt Harvey, like who else pitches there?
Matt Harvey also hasn't pitched one. He's hurt, so he hasn't thrown one pitch for them yet either.
Matt Harvey started against us.
Matt Harvey. Sorry, I was thinking Hunter. Isn't it Hunter Harvey, their closer?
Oh yes, yeah, Hunter Harvey. Yeah, no, yeah, other like a starting pitcher for them. I was like, other than Matt Harvey, like.
And Matt Harvey totally sucks, but
yeah. So, I mean, they got what's his face, a third baseman in the offseason. The guy from he was with the Phillies, wasn't he?
Yeah, Franco, who sucks too. I think it's just so early to say Baltimore's any good or this division's any good. I think we're still not even 20 games in. I think the Yankees will adjust and be fine.
Absolutely. Yeah. It is early, but
unfortunately,
we had to overreact to the early season. So
unfortunately.
Hot takes.
All right. So let us know what you think of the Mariners in first place. Go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Benny_Matt. Sean is at Sean_Benny. Kevin's at Kevin Believe with first name, Believe with 3. Go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave a comment. Tell us what you think. Follow our page on the Eli Network. But gentlemen, let's get into some Seattle Seahawks discussion. So we're going to start with a story that what might have been good news earlier in the week, but now it's not. So the Seahawks signed defensive end Aldon Smith on April 15th. So that would be a Thursday. It was a 1-year deal just to kind of, shore up that defensive line, add some depth to it. But 2 days later, a warrant has been issued for the arrest of Aldon Smith for an alleged second-degree battery that occurred in the New Orleans area on Saturday evening. The St. Bernard Parish District Attorney Perry Nicosia confirmed. This is a story according to Mike Triplett of ESPN. So very, just a full news cycle since we were last on the podcast, but we just need to address this before we move on to some draft stuff. So let's just kind of react to the signing and then the legal issues he's had over the weekend. Now we'll go ahead and start. I want to leave the legal issues aside. It's, that'll be settled in court. We can't speculate on what's true, what's not. So want to totally leave that alone. But if it does end up being true, if he does have charges against him after all of this, then there's just no way the Seahawks should keep him. Like, he's had this sort of history before at the league. He was released by the 49ers because of this. He finally got back in the league last year. You know, you had your second chance, and you know, if these, you know, allegations turned out to be true and you're charged, it's just feels like that's the end of the career of Aldon Smith. You know, maybe not overall. Maybe he comes back at some point in time later when he's, you know, figured himself out and stuff like that. But if all this kind of, you know, goes through and he is charged with a crime, then I don't see the Seahawks keeping him, and nor should they. It's just not worth it's not worth what he brings to your football team at this point. It's just you can't say this is okay and have him on your football team. So let's hope that the Seahawks, you know, if the legal system plays out and he is charged, that they do the right thing here. Sean, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, you said it's his second chance. This is like his fifth chance. He's been in trouble for 4 different things. So if he is found guilty in court, I don't think it's even a Seahawks issue, because he's definitely going to miss the whole season with how many times he's already been in trouble. So I mean, obviously, like, this is like I was saying, I think on Twitter, was like, when he first signed, I was like, oh, if it's cheap, you know, a 1-year deal, that's not bad at all. But then this happens, and Matthew's right. Like, just the Seahawks probably have more information than we do. And if there's any sort of validity to this, just cut him now, or just tear it all up. Like, I mean, I'm sure that there's like contract things. If they cut him, they have to then pay him versus like wait for the legal process. But basically end all ties with him if there's any sort of truth to this. Just be done with it.
Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. It's a bummer, because we definitely needed the depth. And he helped provided that a lot. Because that's kind of looks like we were just going for cheap old veterans, kind of adding to the line, which would have helped. Because I mean, as he showed last year, when he's healthy, he's still good. Unfortunately, with the situation being, I'd say still kind of pan out to see what it does. But as Sean mentioned too, the Seahawks are probably going to be the first to know type of deal before we do. So I don't want to say quite yet, because last year we did the same thing with Dunbar, and then nothing panned out from it, thank God. But if it does turn out to be anything legit, yeah, you just got to cut ties with him, unfortunately. Hopefully not, because I would like to see the depth on the team, you know, type of deal, and hopefully he can, you know, get his shit together, because like Sean said, this is like the 18th time. Multiple DUIs and hit and run, I think there was one of them. So it's just like, bro, how many times do you have to be in jail to realize you need to get your crap together? But
yeah, it's also just a situation where you want him to focus on his well-being first before playing football.
Exactly.
That's something you need to worry about first. Kind of similar to a Josh Gordon situation. Like, you want him to be on the field and play, but you need him to take care of his off the field stuff.
I mean, Josh just smokes weed. I mean, that's
but you know, it did
similar,
it's cost
kind
him,
of situation.
it's kind of cost him his career. So that's, you know, hopefully he can go and, you know, work on himself and maybe come back at some point. But at this point, it's not looking good. So you know, we'll let the situation play out, but we did need to address it on the show at the very least. But gentlemen, let's talk about the 2021 NFL draft. Not this weekend, but the next weekend. So we'll talk about kind of the NFC West implications for the draft next week, but we're going to be focusing on the Seahawks specifically in this draft. So gentlemen, the picks for the Seahawks this year are round 2, number 56 overall, round 4, number 129 overall, and round 7, pick number 250 overall. So 3 picks this year. So not a lot of draft capital to work with here. So let's kind of talk first about what we think the Seahawks should do with those picks. And I will go ahead and start this one off. So with pick number 2, I think we've already kind of talked about this a little bit on the preview of last show. I think that second round pick needs to be some sort of offensive lineman. You know, you've got some positions set. So, you know, if you want to draft by position, I'm okay with that. I'm more of a best available lineman kind of guy, and then maybe kind of have the offensive line coach work with him to, you know, work him into the position that they need filled on the line. So, you know, looking at who might be there, there's a couple tackles from Alabama, Oklahoma State, North Dakota State that look like they'll be there in the second round. That could be potential stars for the team. So I really like an offensive tackle there, just especially since you want to address those needs to keep Russ happy and keep him in Seattle. So I think line offensively is going to be the first pick there in round 2. In round 4, I believe they will take a defensive lineman. I think specifically a defensive end. I think they have one side set with Carlos Dunlap. Benson Mayo is back. That's probably the projected starter at this point, but I would like a little bit of competition at that position, and also someone who could maybe cycle in and out of the line when need be. So, you know, round 4, you know, you're probably not going to get a guy who's going to be a starter week 1, but hopefully they can develop a little bit and, you know, maybe be a guy who kind of chips in later in the season, or, you know, just adds some depth to that position, especially with the recent Aldon Smith news, potentially taking away some of that depth that you might have added last week. And then with round 7, I mean, there are a lot of places you could go because it's, you know, it's the last round. So it's, you know, it's kind of a pick that is a flyer and, you know, hope a guy pans out. So I think in round 7, I would like them to take a linebacker. I think that, you know, we have Bobby right now. KJ is, look, I mean, we're not really sure about KJ at this point. Jordan Brooks last year showed some promise, but, you know, there is BBK on there. There is Cordy Barton on the team. But I wouldn't mind the extra linebacker depth just because the only really experienced guy you have is Bobby Wagner on the team at the moment. So, yes, Cody has some playing time. Yes, Jordan Brooks has some playing time. But Brooks, that was his rookie year. Obviously, he's going to be working probably a little bit more this year, pending KJ. But I would like to add a little bit more depth to that position. And granted, it's round 7, so it might not pan out, might not even play, might not even make the team. But I would like to see a linebacker in round 7. Sean, what do you think?
What I think will happen is they're going to trade down. But let's say for the hypothetical, we'll skip over that and say they just take their picks where they are. Round 2, it needs to be O-line or D-line. Depends on kind of what position falls to them from the offensive line. If there's like a really good guard still available, like, or one of their guys, go with the guard. If not, then go D-line. I don't think you're going to get a justifiable tackle that late because tackles are going to go higher because they're in bigger commodities. Same with centers. So the tackle that'll fall to you probably isn't going to be a guy you really, you know, the opportunity cost of drafting a guard will be much higher. So draft, or, you know, would much better. So I would draft the guard if there was one there, but D-line would be my, like, if there was none of those guys, it would be my go-to. Then round 4, I've been seeing here this thing that they need a wide receiver. I don't believe they need a wide receiver. The line quote goes, I would not be surprised if the Seahawks look to add more in the depth because they only have 3 guys with significant playing time. And Kevin, I know, agrees with me. They don't have significant, the only 3 of them do. That includes Swaim, because I don't know if you could call it significant, but Metcalf and Lockett. They don't have any playing time because the Seahawks have chosen not to play the guys they draft. And that's my biggest issue. If they just played those guys, they would have playing time at this point. Stop signing old receivers to put in front of them. So I don't want them to draft a wide receiver. I want them to play the guys they trusted enough to draft the past couple of years. They've drafted a ton, so play them. So at round 4, I would then go a DB, probably a corner, because despite like what we think we know about this cornerback room, it could be very scary to go in with like a Reed and an Ugo and a Flower and really no depth behind them. So I would just take a flyer on like some possible talent there and just like maybe fill a little hole if one pops up. In round 7, again, like if you're getting a significant playing time from a round 7 guy, either you are getting Tom Brady or something went horribly wrong with your team. But like you said, a linebacker is not a bad idea, Matthew. Just get some depth. I like, again, play the guys you drafted above that person. You drafted Cody Barton, you drafted Brooks, you drafted all these guys above them, BBK. So they need to get first crack at it. But I mean, if something happens or an injury, like you said, they got 4 linebackers and 3 spots to fill. You get an injury, now all of a sudden that 7th round guy is like next up. So a linebacker is not a bad idea, Matthew. Actually, I didn't think about it till then, but I go linebacker.
Kevin, before I send it to you, I just want to let Sean know Chris Carson is on line 1 and he was drafted in round 7. So you might want to answer to him. But Kevin, what do you think?
Running backs don't matter. It could be anybody.
Running backs are and to kind of answer that, to Sean's point, running backs are they're probably the position that is drafted the worst.
You can get them anywhere. Just get a running back anywhere.
Yeah, it's a lot of times just because you see people that get them from big schools, and because they have like really good O-lines, they're like, oh, big Stuxley over here, type of deal. But like, you can get a guy from like Oklahoma State, like Chris Carson. You can get like the guys that we've gotten from Florida, even though they are big schools, but you can find people from like Boston College and stuff like that are really good. Running the football helps, especially when you have a good O-line. You can get a back that's going to get you 4 to 5 yards. Just
the 5th leading rusher in the NFL wasn't even drafted this year. I'm just saying.
You're insulting the 7th round, and John Ursua, your guys' boy, was a 7th rounder. So don't you put those 7th rounders.
I would love for him to play, but Pete Carroll won't play him.
That's very true. So I'm going to kind of try to make this short and sweet. Lines, just get lines. O-line, D-line, get lines. That's literally what you need. If you're going to get anything else, get a DB. That's it. That's all you really need. Just the main thing should be line. Like, I don't care if it's O-line, D-line, just be line. That's what it should be. But if you want to get a versatile, Pete, which people will be like, and there's literally like my first thing when I went to Google was like some website like, will Pete flirt with getting a quarterback in the 2nd round? I'm like, I will literally find Pete Carroll up in anywhere in Seattle, and I will charge and kick him in the nuts. There'll probably be a line. See, like if they have, depending on COVID, if they have a summer camp, there will be a line to kick Pete Carroll in the nuts if he drafts a quarterback in the 2nd round. I don't think he's dumb enough to do it, but he has surprised me many times before. So yeah, line, pretty much is what you should do.
Okay. So I want to ask what position you think they might draft that isn't a big need. So I was kind of thinking about this. I think round 2 and round 4, I think are, obviously we don't know what they're going to do, but I think they are safe bets. If I'm a betting man, I think line would be a safe bet on either of those 2, if not both picks. I think linebacker, any defensive position wouldn't totally shock me. So I think the position they might draft that isn't a big need, I think would be quarterback. Now, I don't think it'll be 2nd round. I think it'll be either the 4th or the 7th. I just think that
who you get in the 7th round to play quarterback that you even care about?
I'm not saying, like I said, it's not a position of need. I'm just saying this is a position I think they might draft.
Why?
Just because. Why not? Do you want to sign Geno Smith to another $2 million deal? Like, why not get a guy for $500,000?
Yeah.
That you don't
sign anybody for $500,000. Who cares? Russell gets hurt, your season's over. Get a guy. Throw some dice and see if you can get lucky in the 7th round. Don't waste a guy in the 7th round on a guy who's never going to play.
I'll get to
it. I mean,
what I was going to say,
I didn't say like they needed the position. I'm saying this is a position I think they might draft that they don't need. I would agree. I would just sign an undrafted free agent, honestly. But I could see them drafting a player in the 7th round just for giggles. If they see a guy they like, I could see them just drafting a quarterback in the 7th round. Do you guys, Kevin, what do you think there's a position they might draft that they don't need?
Like I said, Sean,
Yeah,
or
the
excuse me,
Seahawks.
Matt might actually be right.
Yeah.
Just because there are like articles now saying, but now this could be people just making crap up because they want attention. Which usually this is like the time of usually like the 3 weeks before the draft, everybody just gets flat out stupid and just makes the dumbest articles be like, Seahawks are gonna draft a coach, huh? I'm over exaggerating a little bit, but yes, it's like literally in the past, just to kind of say how dumb it is, literally in the past 3 weeks, Colin Cowherd has had an average of 2 to 3 mock drafts per week, and it has over 1 million views on each one. I don't know why NFL fans need to stop. He literally just changes like 2 things every time. And they're like, oh, I'm with Joe Klatt this week, so we're going to do another mock draft, and me and him are going to go back and forth and see what we get. Oh, my God, you took the Bears taking Kyle Trask? Or, oh, my God, shocker. Okay,
Like,
next week I'm going to go with, yeah.
But like, even compared to like normal teams, the media and everything like that is so wrong on the Seahawks in particular that
Oh, they're
who
wrong
knows
on
what
pretty
they're
much
gonna
most
do.
of it. Like, the draft is
Well,
always,
yeah.
other than
But,
like the first 2 to 3 picks.
But even then, like,
wrong.
have they ever been anywhere close to right? Like, all we hear all the time is like, why are the Seahawks drafting this guy? Like, every single pick, they're like, I don't know why they drafted that guy. That guy was supposed to go around 4 rounds later. Like, it's just things like that. And I mean, I get your point, Matthew. You don't think that they necessarily should. You think they will. But with 3 picks, to have 3 picks and then to take a quarterback, that sends a message to your quarterback.
And that's exactly why I think they might do it.
Yeah.
Because
so they're gonna scare Russell Wilson by taking a 7th round quarterback. Like,
Well,
I don't know about that.
I don't think it will
No.
scare Russell Wilson, but I think that would be the thought process behind drafting a quarterback.
I can
That's
see
dumb, and
Pete.
you fire them immediately if they
Yeah.
do that.
They should, but he won't. That's the thing. And I agree with Matt here. Like, I think Pete is dumb enough to do it. Now, is Russ going to give a fuck? No. Because, like, you'd be like, okay, run that kid and see what you do.
Do it.
Yeah. Let that kid be the starting quarterback, and we'll see who has a job next year. Yeah. If I'm going to give my serious answer, because we've kind of prolonged this, I would say running back. Just because Pete loves him, it gets him hard. He clearly doesn't trust Penny at all. That pick was a waste.
Not at all.
And even though we've drafted running back the last 2 years, he doesn't like what he drafts. I don't know. We drafted DJ Dallas last year. He probably will barely use him. He drafted what's his also face from Florida,
Homer.
the out route guy that everybody hates, but
Swain.
nobody should hate.
Oh,
It's
Homer.
Yeah, Homer. Yeah, it's the O line, but everybody's just like, oh, he sucks. I'm like, no, our O line sucks. Sorry, type of deal. And then we brought back what's his face that we went to Baltimore, and Alex Collins.
Oh, Collins, yeah.
Yeah. So I have a feeling he'll be like, I need another running back. Let's get one in the 4th or 7th and waste it.
I think that's more likely. I think that scares me that that's more likely.
Yeah. And should he be fired for getting a running back? Very much so. He should. But he won't be.
It's 7th round. 7th round, you could just throw. I don't care really who. I would not like them to, but I don't really care who. But
when you're in a draft with 3 picks, like you shouldn't even have a running back on your board.
Yeah, but again, like it's a 7th round. Like, let's say you take a lineman. Who cares? He's probably gonna suck anyways in the 7th. Like, I mean, I get you can't think that way.
Yeah.
But like, what was the last 260th player that was really any good?
Carson
was 249. Let's see. Here, I'll just list off the 7th round picks in the last 5 years. Last year, Steven Sullivan, tight end.
No longer with us.
John Ursua, the year before.
I think he's good, but people won't give him a chance.
Alex McGow, the year before.
He might come back. He was in Jacksonville, I think.
2017, 2 guys that did play significantly last year, David Moore and Chris Carson. And then 2016, Kenny Lawler, Zach Brooks. And then 2015 would be
McDonald's.
Ryan Murphy. So
He's working at a 99-cent store.
it's a Dollar General, actually. Dollar General.
Oh, sorry, Dollar
Looking at last year's NFL draft and then the year before, it's not great. Let's put it that way. You get to 230 and below. Some of these guys aren't even on teams anymore. Like Kevin said, you're cut at
Like,
camp.
and that's the thing with the draft too, is like what most people don't realize is that the class that comes out every year, only like less than a fourth are good enough to stay in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that's being high. Technically, it's like less than an eighth of the class, because that's also including undrafted free agents and stuff like that. Really, there's only maybe like 50 to 70 players that are like good enough to stay on a roster. Like, and that's averaging like two to three players a team. Sometimes you get lucky like we did in 2012, and even then, like, other than Irvin, Bobby, and Russ, like Turbin was kind of like, yeah. So,
Oh, and we also did draft Super Bowl MVP Malcolm Smith in 2011.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
and he's still playing. He's still.
So there are guys that can be contributors in the seventh round.
Good outside the LOB is a hard stretch for Malcolm Smith. He has had a rough career after the LOB.
It's true.
I mean, he still had a career though. So
he played for Cleveland when they sucked. Let's settle down.
I will say.
I think he's in Oakland now, isn't he? Or sorry, Vegas. Vegas.
Draft. Yeah. This is the draft too, because there's so limited amount of tape and no combine. Even though I don't think combine really matters at all. Sean will disagree with that. To where, like, I think coaches are going to be taking whims on a lot of players. Like, they could see some tape that they really like, and if that guy's still there in the seventh round and it's a running back that like looks like Carson, then yeah, I could maybe see it. Like, I want to like that tape, because Chris Carson's tape, when I saw him drafted, I was like, holy crap, that kid is like, he's jacked as shit, and 2, he's a beast. Like, that dude can run. And I was like, but at the same time too, I was hesitant.
The combine has to matter.
But at the same time, like, okay, for example, like a 40, you could just be having an off day though.
I don't care about the 40. I don't care anything about the 40.
What, like the 3-cone drill? And
no, I don't care about the 3-cone drill. I want to see you run the football things that, like, your arm. I want to see that. Like, I don't care if you're from North Dakota State throwing against Idaho.
I would say for quarterbacks, it's important.
That doesn't matter. Well, yeah, but like wide receivers too. I just want to see like how your hands are, because like I want to see you line up and like how do you look compared to the other guy, and then how are your hands compared to your size.
How many like Christian Kirks have been drafted that get drafted high because of their speed, but then can't catch a ball worth of shit?
That's not the point. They're using the combine wrong. That's not the problem of the combine. That's the problem of the evaluators. Like, I don't care about that, because the film can lie to you depending on where you play and who you play with. I mean, look at every Alabama quarterback ever.
Sure.
Like, they look good because of who they play with. Like, not because of the other way around. And you'll see that the combine, like, that dude sucks. Yeah, he sucks. Like, I mean, like,
you can also the thing with the combine too is you can have just a really off day.
Yeah, no,
like,
that's why it's not the end all be all either. That's why I'm saying, like, you need to do both things, film and combine, because combine is you take everybody, remove all variables, and you go at the same time next to each other. And it's
then you could also have like a good day and be the opposite and get drafted in the first.
Yeah.
And then go to Miami and then get dropped after that. We're talking about a certain guy from UCLA.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean, and that's what people need to be aware of. Like, if somebody's like, oh, you're not really that good, and then you had like a really crazy combine, you need to like really go back and look at that film. But it also needs to pique your interest too. Like, how did he look so good on this day when we weren't really that high on him? You know, things like that. But it's not, you can't look at either one of them, because film can lie to you and combine can definitely lie to you as well.
I agree.
Well, I mean, if I'm picking one over the other, I'm definitely picking game film over combine, just because I prefer in-game pads, other team playing hard, as opposed to just, showing off your skills with the,
Yeah, I would say absolutely. But again, like, that is very, very dangerous, especially with like,
It
Again,
is.
stacked teams that will lie to you every single time. Every single time that will
But
lie.
at the same time too, like, so okay, say like you're with like LSU, like if they're stacked as shit,
Yeah.
like they kind of were like 2 years ago. We're now seeing that some of them, like the center that went to Denver, was not good. And then the guy that we got as the guard,
Lewis.
yeah, Lewis, was not good at pass protection, good at run protection, but terrible at pass protection. Now he's only had 1 year. But even though like system, like it could be like transitioning to different systems, people getting too used to one thing, and also too level of opponent that you face too. Like
Those are all arguments against game film. like
but at the same time too, like you can have a good line in college and get protected, but at the same time too, if you have a mediocre line in the NFL, it doesn't matter like how good you are unless you're Patrick Mahomes. Like if you're top echelon tier, like you're going to struggle. Like Joe Burrow, like just lit people up on fire and then was struggling. He did have some good moments, but then
he played pretty well. He won 4 games in his first 7 or 8, and then his leg exploded.
But the Bengals also too have a very underrated defense that nobody really talks about.
Yeah, no, I agree. But again, Kevin, all those are points of why you can't only look at game film. You're helping me there. Like,
I know. Like I said, there are things at the combine that are important, but
it strips away all of it. It strips away your wide receiver, it strips away your O-line, your scheme. It strips away all that. And like, can you throw that 10-yard out route? Let's see it right now. And a lot of guys, they failed there. Like Cam Newton, remember, was like the bottom. He was projected to go to Seattle when that started. He went to the combine and was like, oh my gosh, you're way better than, second round pick. And he went all the way up because everyone's like, he's Cam freaking Newton. Now, like, we could argue like semantics of like, how good is Cam Newton? But again, like Cam Newton didn't deserve to go in the second round. Like Cam Newton is still not a second round quarterback, but a combine showed like, oh, Cam Newton is really good. Like, I remember that because I was like, I want Cam Newton. If you're gonna let him all the way fall down to the Seattle, take Cam Newton, and then he obviously shot to the number 1 pick.
So, gentlemen, sorry. Go ahead. We'll let you finish your point, Kevin.
At the same time, too, you had guys that didn't have a combine or a pro day that didn't stand off on film, and then people saw their game film, aka Aaron Donald, and then went like ape shit. Like
Aaron Donald had an absolutely insane combine. He had an absolutely insane. Doesn't he still hold the record for most bench presses for a D lineman?
But at the same time, too, like I already knew this before the combine happened, just because of his tape.
Yeah, but like that just confirmed it, Kevin. Like he could have completely failed, and I mean, like
he could have had the sniffles and not felt good that day,
But
type of deal.
I know
he
that
could have punched a dude in a bar and had a sore fist, Oh, is that too soon? That too soon?
Well, he didn't get in trouble for that, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not getting suspended, Kevin. I'm so sorry. But yeah, like I mean, I get it, but you need to look at both. I would say maybe 55-45, film, but film can easily lie to you as well, though. Like that's what I'm saying. Like any good team is not relying on one or the other.
I'm more 70-30 just because there's more film, and film is, in my opinion, less likely to lie to you because you have more variety of it.
In college football,
you have one day.
College football lies to you a ton. A normal season lies to you a ton.
And that's what you have to take with college film too, is like you're going against college players. You could be going against 2 sloppy, terrible corners at North Dakota State, type of deal.
That's not a factor at the combine. That's what I'm saying. Like all of that is not a factor at the combine.
But it's one day though.
All right, gentlemen.
That's what I'm saying.
We're over an hour. Also, don't slander the top seed North Dakota State so much. They're definitely going to take down Eastern. So, gentlemen.
Oh yeah.
Wait, I don't think they play. They don't play the number 1.
I don't think Trey Lance is playing though.
No, they don't play the number 1 seed.
No, they're on the opposite side. They play in the championship. But anyway, let's get to one last topic before we wrap up the show. So we have talked about who we think they might pick and all that sort of stuff. Sean kind of alluded to a question that I want to ask you guys. Do you think the Seahawks will make a draft day trade to either trade up or trade down? looking at what they have, I would say I don't think they'll trade anything. Like they have so limited picks. The only thing I could see is maybe trading a player like before the draft to get some picks, but I don't really know what they have to offer other teams. Maybe to get like maybe a third rounder or something like that, just to maybe kind of get up in those first few rounds of the draft. But I don't think they will make any trade. If they do make a trade, I think they might try and trade that 4th round pick to acquire more picks maybe further back in the draft, because the 4th round is, it's like in those middle rounds where it's like those players could have potential, but are also, maybe fallen a little bit from, maybe 2nd or 3rd round talent wise, maybe maybe they have the sniffles on their combine day or something. So, it's
Those damn sniffles, man.
So the 4th round is kind of a weird area. So I could see them possibly trading a 4th round pick and maybe getting like a later 4th round pick and a 5th round pick or something. But generally the Seahawks are the team that trade back. So that's why I kind of say I think I could see them trade back and acquire a few more picks just to get a few more guys in the roster. Sean, what do you think?
I'll say something real quick. I will say that I don't hold almost any stock in pro days, but because that's all controlled. I will say, yeah, they're. I think if anything, they trade back in the 2nd round. I think they trade the one with the most value. They'll trade, and I honestly, all I hope is not even for this year, because with 3 picks, you're not going to do a lot. I hope they can get something more of value, maybe a late 1st or a really high 2nd next year, or just something like that. I just want, because you got to start stockpiling assets at some point, and they need to do that. I'm hoping next year, because again, like one guard, or like Kevin said, like one backup, rotational D end is not going to make or break this team. But stockpiling picks for like in the future, because we don't have a ton next year either, would be nice. And I hope they could even, that's my goal, is they trade that 2nd pick for a pick next year.
Kevin, what do you think?
I'd be down for that. Another option that they could do that Matt kind of brought up is trade away players to get a pick. And the one that comes to mind, which will be no surprise to you guys, because I've been all offseason, I've been saying get rid of him, would be Diggs. Just get rid of him for like a 3rd, 4th round pick. And then you have Blair to take his position. Like, why would you not? And then you have Ryan Neal as your backup.
Yeah.
Or even if Neal outplays, oh my God, I just said his name, Blair, to do that position, whatever, we just have too many good safeties that we're not using. I mean, the depth is nice, don't get me wrong, which is kind of like, it seems what we're going for again this year. But at the same time too, if they all stay healthy, then it's kind of like, well, what was the point, type of deal. Or even, as Sean mentioned, you can, if they stay healthy going into the playoffs, and someone needs a safety weeks 15 or something, give them Diggs, get a pick next year, and go like that. But do they trade back? Probably. It gets Pete hard. He likes that. He dreams about it every night. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if they trade back. They don't trade forward. That like scares them. Like, why? They've never traded up to get somebody high in the 1st round ever, or like other than like DK trading up to get DK at the end of the 2nd type deal. But that's really the only thing they've really done. So it scares Pete. He doesn't, and we don't want to give the man a heart attack type deal. So we'll just let him do his thing, let him be happy at night type deal, and we'll watch him trade back and he'll probably trade back and get a 3rd and a 5th. I'll say.
That's not terrible though.
No. But that's the thing too, like as we kind of me and Sean have already mentioned, like beyond the 3rd, 4th round, it's just kind of like
they're educated guesses. That's all they are.
I mean, now technically, and if I've already said, and I don't want to like go super beyond, but like this is the draft that you could find guys late just because there is so limited film and no combine on people. So you could get a Cam Chancellor like in a 5th type deal. So who knows? We'll see.
All right. Well, let us know what you think about what the Seahawks do in the draft. You can go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Betty_Matt. Sean's at Sean_Betty. Kev's at Kev. Believe the first name believes in 3. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think the Seahawks do in the draft. Maybe trade back. Who they will trade or draft in the 2nd round, 4th round, 7th round. Let's get out of here on one last high note. Sean, Patrick Marleau has passed Gordie Howe for the all-time game played. I mean, quite the milestone, former Seattle Thunderbird. So congratulations to Patrick Marleau on surpassing Gordie Howe. He's played a lot of games, played quite a lot of games. So congratulations to Patrick Marleau. Let's hope it was a win. I haven't seen the score yet, but it was against Vegas. Yeah. Probably. So yeah, probably not. But next week, we're going to talk NFC West NFL draft. I'm sure we'll hopefully have more on the Mariners, hopefully still in first place. So we will see you next week on Washington East West Sports.